Good morning, all my dear students. How are you all? Today, our topic for the lecture is the remaining part of endocrine system. We termed it as development of endocrine system part 2. Now, in the part 2, the glands which are remaining are adrenal gland, thyroid gland, and parathyroid gland. Now, first is the development of adrenal gland. Now, try to remember the figure in the first part of the lectures of the general embryology, where after the development of the mesentery and the gut, in between the developing mesentery and the gut, a layer of the coelomic epithelium, it get thickened. Do you remember that there is the developing gonads from the intermediate mesoderm and mesentery. So this part it get thickened, that is called as suprarenal ridge, from which the adrenal or suprarenal gland it is developed. So the adrenal gland is also called as suprarenal gland. They are the pair of the glandular tissue located in the upper pole of kidney. All of we know, as in the dissection you might have seen, the adrenal gland, it consists of the superficial cortex and deep medulla. Both cortex and medulla, they are of different origin. The cortex, it is mesodermal in origin, which originate from the coelomic epithelium, while the medulla is neuroectodermal in origin, which develop from neural crest derivative. Now, I told you during the development, the neural tube is formed on either side of the neural tube. The some cells, they migrate on either side of the tube, and they are termed as neural crest cells. You have to remember the previous lecture and look into the neural crest cells derivative. There are n number of the derivatives from the neural crest cells. One among them is the medulla of the adrenal gland. The cells of the neural crest, they migrate from the area of the neural tube towards the coelomic epithelium. This happens by the 45th day of gestation. So first, if we see the medulla, these are the neuroectodermal crest cells origin, and by the 45th day of gestation, these neural crest cells, they migrate towards the fetal cortex and they accumulate in the center, they get incorporate in the fetal cortex. These cells, they afterwards differentiate to form the adrenal medulla. These cells, they are nothing but they are the postganglionic sympathetic neural cells. They migrate and they form the medulla. So that is how the medulla is neuroectodermal in origin. While if we see the cortex, what happens? I told you, by the 5th week of intrauterine life, the area of the coelomic epithelium between the developing mesentery and the developing gonad, it gets thickened. This is called as suprarenal ridge. By the 2nd month of intrauterine life, the cells of this ridge, they migrate more towards the center and they are acidophilic in nature. These surround the neural crest cells. Now can you see here, there is the neural crest cells, they are there, comma shaped structure neural crest cells, and from these cells different other derivatives they are formed. Some of the cells, they are migrating more towards the center around the aorta, and these are called as neural crest cells, and now they get incorporate inside the fetal cortex. The fetal cortex is nothing but these are the acidophilic cells which are derived from the suprarenal ridge. Now this cortex is termed as fetal cortex. This happened by the end of 2nd month of intrauterine life. By the 3rd month, what happens? The second wave of basophilic cells, they migrate from the suprarenal ridge. They cover the acidophilic cells and now they are formed fetal cortex. Now here in this figure, it is nicely shown. The neural crest cells, they are in the center and they form the medulla. The acidophilic cells, now they covers the medulla and they are now termed as the fetal cortex. Now, after this third month of intrauterine life, some of the basophilic cells, they migrate, or you can say the suprarenal ridge now differentiate into the active basophilic cells. These basophilic cells now they migrate and cover the fetal cortex. Now this is termed as developing definitive cortex. Now this is seen in the second month. Now, by the end of the third month of intrauterine life, now in the center there is medulla that is termed as adrenal medulla, which is covered by the fetal cortex. Now this fetal cortex differentiate. Some says the fetal cortex give rise to the reticular cell of the reticular zone of the adrenal gland. While the definitive cortex, it get differentiate into two different layers. The outer layer is zona glomerulosa, while the intermediate layer is termed as zona fasciculata. And that is how now, from outside inward, the suprarenal gland consists of the outermost is zona glomerulosa, the intermediate is zona fasciculata, the middle one is the zona reticularis, and in the center there is adrenal medulla. All these layers they start developing in the late fetal life while they complete their development by third year of life. It is said that the zona glomerulosa and zona fasciculata they are early in development. They start developing by the late fetal life, while zona reticularis, which is the inner layer, it develops late. It is said that by the third year of the life it develops. Did you understand the things? Now, uh, this is this is how the adrenal gland it develops. Now, if I want to summarize how the things are there, how the things go, the coelomic epithelium by the end of the fifth week of intrauterine life get differentiate to form suprarenal ridge. This ridge afterwards differentiate to form some acidophilic layer of cells. Then some of the basophilic cells they too detach from the suprarenal ridge to cover and form the definitive cortex, and the adrenal cortex is totally developed in the newborn, where the three layers differentiate from outside inward: zona glomerulosa, zona fasciculata, and zona reticularis. This is the happenings in the cortex. While the medulla is neuroectodermal in origin, the neural crest cells they differentiate and migrate. They form the sympathogonic cells, or we can say sympathogonia. By the end of the 45th day of intrauterine life, these get surrounded, they migrate towards the developing adrenal gland and they incorporate inside fetal cortex. The fetal cortex is surrounded and that is how it forms the adrenal medulla. And this is how the cortex and medulla of the adrenal gland it is developed. What are the different anomalies related with it? There can be ectopic adrenal gland which can be seen in the mesentery, or it can be seen in the any part like in the peritoneum. It is seen just outside, or its normal situation is in upper part of the kidney. It may be seen bilateral to the kidney, like that is called as ectopic adrenal gland. Like another is congenital adrenal hyperplasia. It gives in signs and symptoms different in male and females. In male, it leads to the adrenogenital syndrome. It is marked by very early development secondary sexual characters, while in female, it causes enlargement of the clitoris. In child, it may be mistaken as male, which is called as pseudohermaphroditism. So, as it is related with the hormones, the hormonal change also cause different congenital anomalies and different signs and symptoms related with it. So, these two are the congenital anomalies, commonly occurring congenital anomalies related with the adrenal gland. Now coming to the next gland, that is the development of the thyroid gland. This thyroid gland is first to develop after fertilization. Now try to remember the figure of the pharyngeal pouches. Already this gland is over. This is just a view, or in short I am going to tell you, but the detail of the development of gland we have already seen during the development of the pharyngeal apparatus. Okay, so here try to remember again the same figure wherein there are different endodermal pouches were there, then ectodermal clefts were there, and then the mesodermal bars are there. Do you remember in the pharyngeal apparatus we have seen the mesoderm, the endoderm and the ectoderm. Now the thyroid gland, it is developed from the endodermal pouch. In the floor of the primitive pharynx, now try to again remember, in the floor of the primitive pharynx, we have seen from the midline of the first and second, it gives rise to a swelling in the center. Try to remember the model of the pharyngeal arch, where we have seen from the midline of the first and second pouch, there is a swelling in the center that is called as tuberculum impar. Student, do you remember tuberculum impar? We have already had revision on that, where you must be remembering the tuberculum impar. Just below tuberculum impar, there is a slight depression. The depression is termed as the thyroglossal duct. This happens, the depressions start appearing by the 24th day of intrauterine life. Now same, I have a very good figure here. Now here you can see the endodermal pouch, endodermal thickening of this give rise to the foramen, that is called as foramen cecum. While from the cecum a small hollow space is developed, it deepens down and that termed as a duct. The duct is called as thyroglossal duct. This also we have seen in the model. Okay, thyroglossal duct. This thyroglossal duct now in its caudal part, it get bifurcate, and this bifurcated two lobes give rise to the two lobes of the thyroid gland. As I was telling you, the thyroglossal duct, the opening of the thyroglossal duct in the center, just behind the tuberculum impar, is called as foramen cecum. The duct, from the foramen cecum, the duct grows down caudally. And see here, it get bifurcate, and this bifurcated part, now it develop into a circular shaped lobe. This happens by the 7th week of intrauterine life. Now this is seen from the thyroglossal duct. Now the endodermal pouch of the 4th and the 5th give rise to the ultimobronchial body. It is a part of caudopharyngeal complex. These caudopharyngeal complex give rise to the parathyroid gland and the part of the lateral thyroid, or part of the thyroid. Now that is shown in this figure. This caudopharyngeal complex get divided into the lateral thyroid element and the parathyroid 4. This also called as ultimobronchial body. This lateral thyroid element get incorporate inside the bifurcated thyroglossal duct, and ultimately these form the thyroid gland. While the fourth parathyroid get detached from the lateral thyroid element and it descend down. Okay, we'll see it afterwards. So that is how, if we want to revise in the summary, the thyroid gland develop from two sources. The follicles develop from the thyroglossal duct, which bifurcate to give two lobes, and that form the different follicles, and then the parathyroid cells, they are formed from the lateral thyroid element from the ultimobronchial body. Do you remember? Do you understand? So this is how the thyroid gland is developed. Congenital anomalies related with it. There is the pyramidal lobe developed. The pyramidal lobe is nothing but the extension of the thyroid gland. The extension may be from the isthmus, it may be from the two thyroid lobes. That is termed as pyramidal lobe. The second, isthmus may be absent. The two lobes, they are connected in the center by isthmus. Sometimes the isthmus is absent, both the lobes they are fixed, or both the lobes may be separate. The thyroid gland may be absent. Sometimes the gland is not at all developed. There may be hypoplasia of the gland under, it is called as small, it is like small gland, that is termed as hypoplasia. When the gland is large, that is termed as hyperplasia. Sometimes there may be one lobe may be missing, termed as unilateral oogenesis of thyroid. May be right, it may be left. Sometimes the ectopic thyroid tissue may be seen in other body parts, like it may be seen in the larynx, or it may be seen in the soft part of the deep structure of the neck. It may be seen on either side of the trachea. Okay, so that is seen. Then sometimes the thyroglossal duct, actually normally the thyroglossal duct it disappears, but congenitally it may remain and it get converted into a cyst, that is called as thyroglossal cyst. Sometimes the cyst ruptures in two ways and it forms a canal-like structure, that is forming the fistula. It is called as thyroglossal fistula. It may be seen anywhere in course of duct. And clearly, in this thyroglossal duct, there can be metaplasia and it gives rise to carcinoma, that is termed as thyroglossal carcinoma. The thyroglossal sinus can be formed. The cyst ruptures and it opens external to the neck, that is termed as the fistula or the sinus, which is draining outside. Very rarely there are different anomalies related with the location, related with the position also. So the thyroid gland may be seen inside the tongue, that is intralingual thyroid. It may be seen above the tongue or under the mucosa of the dorsum of the tongue, called as lingual thyroid. It may be seen above the hyoid bone, lying in the midline of the neck, that is termed as suprahyoid thyroid. Sometimes it is seen infrahyoid, but lie in the midline below the hyoid. It is not in the thorax, just it is below hyoid bone and above the normal, above the superior of the normal position. It may be seen in the thorax, that can be termed as infrahyoid or the thyroid gland, or it is called as infrared thyroid. The diagram it is narrating the different position or location of the thyroid gland: intralingual, lingual, suprahyoid, infrahyoid, and or any way in the path of development of the thyroglossal duct. Now coming to the Development of parathyroid gland. You all know there are four parathyroid glands. There are two pairs of the parathyroid glands. Already this also we have studied during the development of the pharyngeal arches. Again you have to remember the things. You have to remember the model of the this pharyngeal arches where we have discussed the development of the parathyroid gland. Here I am going to just summarize it once again. There are four parathyroid glands. Two are superior parathyroid gland. They are called as superior parathyroid. Two are inferior in position and they are called as inferior parathyroid gland. Even though the parathyroid superior is superior in position, it is also termed as fourth parathyroid. While the inferior parathyroid, even though it is inferior in position, it is termed as third parathyroid. Now, what happens during the development? The dorsal part of the third arch, it loses its contact. We have to go behind to see the developing this figure showing the development of thyroid as well as parathyroid. Now see here, this is the parathyroid third and this is the parathyroid fourth. When the third endodermal pouch of the uh, third pharyngeal arch give rise to the parathyroid and the thymus. Okay, so when the thymus descend down, along with the thymus, parathyroid also descend down. At somewhere in its way, it get disconnected or it get detached from the thymus and it get incorporated inside the thyroid gland. It is forming the uh, inferior parathyroid. While from the fourth pouch, the parathyroid third it is formed, and this parathyroid third also it get detached from the floor of the pharynx and now get incorporated inside thyroid, and that is termed as the parathyroid third. Okay, so if we summarize this, dorsal part of the third pouch lose its contact with the pharynx and then descend caudally along with the thymus. Finally, it loses its contact with the thymus also, and the part of the parathyroid it get incorporate inside the thyroid, and that is termed as inferior parathyroid or parathyroid third. According to its development, it is parathyroid third. According to its position, it is inferior parathyroid. Don't get confused in this, students. Even though it is third, it is inferior. Okay. Now, the second, that is the dorsal part of the fourth pouch, it gets detached from the floor of the pharynx. It do not descend that much, but to a small extent it descend down. It get detached from the pharynx and then it get incorporated inside thyroid, and that is termed as superior parathyroid or parathyroid 4. According to its derivative, it is parathyroid. This parathyroid is developed from fourth pouch, that is why it is parathyroid 4. But it is superior, that is why it is termed as superior parathyroid gland. Did you get? Now, the congenital anomalies. There can be oogenesis. Sometimes two parathyroid are developed, two do not develop. Sometimes unilateral development may be there. Two right parathyroid they are developed, left do not develop. Like that, oogenesis can be there. There can be hyperplasia more than the normal size, or hypoplasia that is less than the normal size can be there. So this is about the development of the endocrine glands. In this this chapter is important, but in that up till now the development of the thyroid is important. It can be asked as a short note carrying 5 marks. Development of this Rathke's pouch, derivative of the Rathke's pouch, and the development of the hypophysis cerebri can also be asked for the short note carrying 5 marks. So I wish all of you Best luck. Read the anatomy and be in touch with the anatomy. Goodbye.